Welcome to our Backyard Brothers podcast, our first podcast in December and our first one in a couple weeks. Obviously, we didn't meet last week. Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everyone and great football this last weekend. We'll talk about a lot of it. Um, and a lot of football, both college and NFL, is going to be our major focus today. As you can see, Yancey is not here today. He had some sickness in the family. I have some sickness in mine too, but luckily, I'm able to still join, but at least somewhat distractedly. I may jump off here and there, but anyway, Yancey couldn't be here tonight. We'll manage without him. We love his wit and we love his analysis on some things as well. But we'll talk with him next week. So um, he also had our memory for tonight, and so without him, we're obviously gonna um, hold that, postpone it for next week. And so we're jumping right in to a basketball minute. Anything related to NBA or college basketball that any of us want to mention. It could be sparse tonight, or we could have some stuff to talk about. So let's jump in.
The NBA in-season tournament is wrapping up. Um, there not too much to discuss around there, other than I absolutely love the court designs for the in-season tournament. They're really fun, really colorful, and I kind of wish that they existed at other times during, not just during the in-season tournament. If you haven't seen court designs, just Google NBA court designs, and it's just really colorful, really cool stuff for the in-season tournament.
I actually have a question about that because I think of the NFL. They paint their field and stuff. Do they paint the court or what do they use?
It's just, I don't know if it's paint or some type of dyed vinyl or something like that, but it's
Yeah.
it's not painted wood or anything like that. It's just like a protected laminate wood that's designed specifically for that and laid down.
Yeah, they roll it out. I think it's some kind of vinyl, like you said, but because they have other things in those stadiums, like hockey plays in there too, a lot of times, and they have concerts and stuff like that, and so they have to be able to roll out the wood when they need to make way for
That's
the
what I
players.
thought. 'Cause I knew they had so many different things, so I figured painting the wood wasn't as practical. So
No, it's not. There's not somebody out there with a paintbrush or a roller or anything. No, it's all designed in some warehouse and probably air sprayed it on, air spray painted on or something like that. But yeah, it's very interesting to look at, say, football stadiums that get used for concerts, and that's really about it. These huge stadium concerts, where these basketball stadiums are in use almost every single night for different events, whether it's hockey or rodeo or whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have a whole lot to talk about with basketball today. We've talked about the standings, and they haven't really changed since we talked about last week. Cavs are still top in the East. They've now lost 3 games, but still 19-3 is pretty dang good at this point in the season. So Celtics are right behind them at 18-4, and everything else has fallen the way that we saw it last week. In the West, it's a little bit more of a log jam. The Thunder and the Rockets, by the way, that's one to talk about. The number 2 in the West right now. And I think, the lone person in our NBA preview to say, hey, the Rockets have a chance to be good, at least better than they were last year. And so far, they've really leaned into that. And so I think that's one thing I want to mention is the Houston Rockets. But other than that, it's pretty similar to what we talked about last week. So
Yeah, I guess two things I would say is on the Rockets. I think, Scott, both you and I said that this is going to be a team that's going to be very good in years to come. We are
yeah,
expecting this 2, 3, 4 years, and so if this is the year already ahead of schedule, then that's all the better news for Houston. The second comment I would have is I saw this great analysis about current NBA and the struggle that it has, and there's just this unfortunate idea of that NBA is no longer played 90 feet. It's about the middle 30 feet from 3-pointer to 3-pointer. And, that it's something that is hopefully with the evolution of the 3-point analysis, there needs to be some greater evolution of where does it go from here, because teams just go from, they get a rebound and go to the 3-pointer and figure out a shot there, and they go to the other 3-pointer and figure out a shot there, and there's not too much rim play or even mid-range shots anymore, and it's unfortunate we're watching a lot of misses, in the modern NBA.
And I was actually just going to comment on that. I mean, I saw there's two things I was going to say. I saw something about, I don't remember what teams it was, but what teams it were. But yeah, it was like they just went and they shot a three and missed. They went and shot a three and missed. It was just like a game this past week or so. It was, it was kind of a humorous, take on it. Like, this is the new NBA, kind of thing. And so I saw that. And then along that same line, and you can let me know if this is false news or something, but I saw something about how LeBron James has missed like 14 consecutive threes or something like that. Does that sound familiar? Is that happening?
It's not unheard of to miss 14 straight threes. I mean, it's not a. I mean, LeBron is a good 3-point shooter. He's not a great 3-point shooter, and so missing 14 in a row, I don't think that's really news. I mean, if you miss 30 in a row as a player, maybe that's starting to get, hey, that's bad. And obviously they have these analyses of during the month of October or November or whatever, LeBron James shot 17% from three. That's horrible. But to just have 14, I'm not sure that's a total news thing unless your job is to make 3-pointers. If Steph Curry missed 15 in a row, that maybe you talk about it a little bit more.
Yeah, it's kind of in today's day, and with LeBron's updated play style, he's shooting 14 threes a game, and to miss all of those it's not unheard of. A really good 3-point shooter in the NBA is going to shoot 40%, maybe 43%. LeBron is going to be closer to 36 to 38, which so better, a little better than 1 out of 3.
I always remember I went to Rec Center. This is probably almost 10 years ago now, and I was sitting watching some kids. I literally they were probably 13, 14, 15-year-olds playing basketball, and it was fun watching these kids play. Some of them were pretty good, but the thing that got me realizing how much the game has changed is like they're all shooting threes. They're all spaced out on the 3-point line, and one kid shoots and it misses pretty bad, but the kid goes in for the rebound. It was great. He goes in for the offensive rebound, gets the offensive rebound. No one's around him, and he dribbles out for the 3-point line and shoots again instead of shooting it up at the rim. And so it's funny to think about that, but and obviously that wouldn't exactly happen in the NBA like that, but there's a kernel of truth to that we're no longer 3 points is more than two, and that's as far as the analytics are going to work on that. And so I do hope there's some kind of evolution, and I hope that in some ways we get back to understanding the importance of a mid-range game or a down post game in the NBA.
So maybe this is just a question I have, but it might be a better PTI. But is there any type of rule change in basketball you think would be beneficial to bring back, maybe more of a nostalgic kind of play style, or different, traditional play style, I should say?
I wouldn't say that a rule change. I would say that there needs to be an evolution of a big man. Somebody who posts up and is either scores or gets fouled. On 70% of their plays, and all of a sudden you got a guy who's averaging 30 points a game, and he's doing it from within 10 feet of the hoop every time. There's definitely players capable of doing that. I mean, Giannis is pretty close to that play style, but he starts his drives from the 3-point line as opposed to posting up. But what would be interesting is to see if something like that were to happen again, where a guy who's got the size and everything like that to play in that play style and dominate again, where then teams have to adjust the way they play.
We've talked about Zach Edey, for example, as the guy that's trying to bring this old school game to the current NBA, and we've all talked about how his game isn't going to transition to the current NBA. But if we're talking about a player that, you bring the absolute best version of Zach Edey to the NBA, that's what you're talking about. Like the best possible scenario, that's the guy that can do it. The kind of guy, the 7'3", 300-pound guy that can't shoot past 6 feet, but he can he can make everything within 6 feet, and he can get fouled a lot, and is a 72% free throw shooter. So,
yeah, so I don't think that there's a rule change. I think that there's a natural evolution of a team that is once again getting 60% of their points from in the paint and winning championships that way. Because right now the teams winning championships are the teams that are shooting the best from 3-point line. And so that's what every team is chasing analytically. And I don't think it's going to change until the statistics change.
Yeah. Okay. Next topic. I kind of put the actual topics in our NFL discussion, some of the ones that I wanted to talk about. That doesn't mean that if you guys have other topics that we don't talk about them. I just wanted to mention some of them that are right on top of mind, at least for me. And so going to the NFL, and then we'll talk about college football, because I think there's a lot to talk about in both. And so kind of spacing that out. So let's jump into the NFL. We don't have to follow this the style here, but let me start with a stat, because I know some of you guys appreciate these really crazy fun stats every now and then. So there have been 2 players ever in the NFL that have thrown for 475 plus yards and 4 touchdowns in a single game. Just 2 ever to throw for at least 475 and 4 touchdowns. Can you guess who those 2 players are? And obviously, one of these is going to be a surprise, but one of them is obvious. So, guess.
Drew Brees is one of them.
Drew Brees is not one of them. No.
Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning is one.
Yeah, I think I know the other one. I think I know the other one.
It happened the other night.
Jameis Winston.
Jameis Winston. So yes. Jameis Winston also threw 3 interceptions in that game. He actually threw 6 touchdowns. Just 2 of them went to the other team. So, and he also threw for a combined 600 yards because of the 3 interceptions that went for long gains. So, like, he threw for like 600 something yards in that game. Just almost 200 of them were to the other team. So, it's the full Jameis experience. And then after the game, if you did Cody, you're laughing. Did you hear what he said?
I've heard most of his remarks.
Okay.
I wouldn't be able to quote him right now, but yeah.
He is so fun to listen to, but because he brings pretty fun religion topics into what he's talking about. He usually quotes from the Old Testament or New Testament or whatever. In this case, he was like, I just want my Lord and Savior to deliver me from pick sixes. So,
yeah, so that. No, he needs to be mic'd up every game. That's just it. The NFL needs to do a better job with finding players who are just kind of a little bit, and like just putting a microphone on them and letting them go.
Yeah, so that was fun. What do you guys want to talk about NFL? It doesn't have to go in my order. So, topic from either of you guys.
I have one about to talk about the Chiefs.
Mhm.
And I was looking up some stats thinking about talking about this, and whether it be ESPN analysts or you guys, like the idea that the Chiefs offense or Patrick Mahomes in particular is not playing at an elite level, I think is total bullcrap. He's top 10 in almost every category. Top 10 in touchdowns, top 10 in rating, top 10 in completion percentage this season. He's playing really good. He's not number 1, 2, and 3. He's more like 7, 8, and 9. But he's playing great and winning games. And on the offense in particular, if we're talking about any other team, to say any other team is basically 11-1 in close games, that would be like historic. It would be, wow, this team knows how to win games. A couple of years ago, the Vikings did that, where they're winning every game that was within a possession. And now the Chiefs are doing it, and people are saying, oh, the Chiefs are not so good. And so I feel a little defensive of my team and saying, hey, they're winning every single game. Doesn't matter who they play. Sure, it's one possession, but those are the games that matter. And you don't get kicked out of the playoffs for only winning by 2. That's what it is. And then Patrick Mahomes is top 10 in rating, top 10 in touchdowns. I think he's thrown 19 touchdowns this season. And he's playing at an elite level.
So some of my arguments against that, and you're not wrong. So let me say that up front, that you're not wrong that he's playing at an elite level, but he's not playing Patrick Mahomes level. So that's an important level. He has the worst quarterback rating of his career this year. So that's important to mention. He is playing the worst season of his career. And so that's pretty amazing when you're still a top 10 in a lot of categories, what he's been doing, but he is not playing up to the level that he has set for himself and what he has set for his fans and things like that. He's also his yards per completion is also last of his career, the worst of his career. The interceptions, he's thrown 11 of them. He's top 10 in the NFL in interceptions thrown as well. And so it's been the same story last year as it was this year. The offense is not up to playing the way that it had played previously. The defense is holding that thing together. And then the one thing I will agree with you about Patrick Mahomes is he is the best quarterback on 3rd and 4th down quarterback rating. Those 2 downs, there is no one better in the NFL, what he is doing. And so you could say he's horrible on 1st and 2nd down, but on 3rd and 4th, where you could say it matters, he's really showing up. And he's thrown a lot of interceptions. He's taking a lot of sacks. I think he's also top 10 in sacks taken from a quarterback position. That's usually not been an issue from him. But the Chiefs are definitely winning games. You can't say that they're not, but you can say that a few of their games have been incredibly lucky to be able to win it the way that they have. You had 2 instances in which a team was setting up against the Chiefs to kick a field goal less than 40 yards to win the game. In one case, it was blocked. In the other case, the Raiders literally fumbled away the game. So you don't get those situations where you have a team that's going to set up for a 36-yard field goal to win the game, and in neither case does it go in, or in one case it doesn't even get there. And so yes, the Chiefs are winning in ways that you can say they're taking advantage of teams that literally crap the bed against them, like but it's just, to me, it's not sustainable playing this way. It's not sustainable to, when you're going to get to the playoffs, you're not going to play the Panthers and the Raiders in back-to-back playoff games. You're going to be playing the Bills, who you already lost to by 10. You're going to be playing the Ravens, the Texans, those teams. And if you continue to play this kind of heart attack game where you're hoping that Patrick Mahomes saves you in the 3rd and 4th down, and that a team is going to make a mistake against you. It's not sustainable to win a Super Bowl that way. Now they could completely turn it around in the playoffs and be like they did last year. That's completely, and if that's the case, they're going to win a three-peat. But playing the way that they are right now, I don't think is sustainable to win 3 games in the playoffs.
Good comment.
So I would agree with most of everything Scott said. Just to highlight a few of those things, Patrick Mahomes right now is tied for 3rd most interceptions in the league with 11, as Scott had said. And so, really, what I was going to say was similar to Scott said, that he is not playing to his standard. He has created a standard of excellence, Patrick Mahomes standard of excellence, and he's not playing to that. He's playing to the top 10, what everyone else is, instead of the top elite quarterback play that Patrick Mahomes is typically doing. And so because of that, the eye test, you could say, is, wow, he sucks this year. When in reality, he doesn't. He's still a good quarterback. Any team would want him right now. But he's not what the Chiefs have had for a while. And with that being said, the difference that I see is that the Patrick Mahomes that we're used to seeing is the one who wins games. Right now, it's the defense winning games, not Patrick Mahomes. And that's the difference. And so, if we want to see that elite level of play, and I don't think he's elite right now, he's really good. But if we want to see that elite level of play, it's when he's doing that, going and winning the game with 13 seconds left or whatever that was, a couple of years ago, where once Mahomes jogs out on the field, they're going to win the game, kind of thing. And so the thing I would disagree with, let me first say I agree with the idea that they could turn everything around in the playoffs. That's without anyone. But the way they're playing right now, I don't think they could even win one game in the playoffs. I don't think so, because when you get to the playoffs, the competition ups a lot. It just does. I mean, unless you're playing a winner division who only has 9 wins, which they might.
Yeah.
But I don't. The way they're playing right now on offense, they probably won't win a game in the playoffs. I could be wrong with that, but that's my thought. Is Patrick Mahomes created a standard of excellence to play to, and he's not playing to that. And so because of that, the eye test views him as he's playing terrible when he's not.
Yeah, good comments from you both. I think the one rebuttal that I would have is that, did you see how much the Bills celebrated when they beat them in a regular season game? It was the Bills and ESPN and everybody else were celebrating as if the Bills won the Super Bowl whenever they beat the Chiefs. Every single team, when they go against the Chiefs, are treating it like the biggest game of their season. Nobody's saying, oh, it's just a regular season game. I mean, the celebration that the Bills were having was incredible, right? It was huge. And so I would think that any playoff team, any team that's going to play them in the playoffs has been approaching the same way when they're playing the Chiefs in the regular season, because they want to beat the defending champs. And only one team has done it, 11-1. And so that would be my rebuttal. And then again, the one last thing is, yeah, good comments. And let's kind of wow at the fact that worst of his career is 8th best in the NFL.
One thing that I will say, devil's advocate for the Chiefs in this case, they've been injured. I mean, you lost your top receiver, actually your 2 top receivers. You lost Marquise Brown and Rashee Rice. You lost your starting running back, Isaiah Pacheco. You lost some defensive stars. You lost some offensive linemen. Your left tackle is a catastrophe. Whether that's Kingsley Suamataia or Wanye Morris, it doesn't matter. Left tackle is an absolute catastrophe in Kansas City right now. And all of those problems, the Chiefs are 11-1. And so the 49ers have lost all of their stars, and they have completely fallen apart and crumbled. So you can say that the Chiefs and 49ers have experienced similar injury problems, and the way that the Chiefs have responded is much different than the way the 49ers have. So that's something that I will say as a devil's advocate there.
Good.
The next one I want to talk about. So tangentially from the Chiefs. We're talking about Patrick Mahomes here in a second, or just a second ago. He got outplayed by Bryce Young in Carolina. Bryce Young completely outplayed Patrick Mahomes in every category. He looked really, really good, and he actually has looked really good for 4 straight weeks. Even though the Panthers have lost all 4 games, that or maybe 3 of the 4. But Bryce Young, is he miraculously like fixed? Because he has really played really, really well. He actually, the only looking at quarterback rating over the last 4 weeks, there's only one quarterback that has been a better quarterback rating than Bryce Young over 4 weeks. That's Josh Allen. And so what's going on in Carolina? Did Bryce Young get fixed? We were all writing him off as a complete bust, and everyone was. It wasn't just us. We were obviously one of many that were doing that, but you can't deny what he has been doing numbers wise right now. Has he been fixed?
I think it's a small sample size, 4 games, but I think that having him sit out for 4, 6 games, however much it was really helpful. I think it slowed the game down for him, allowing him to see another quarterback do it, and allowing him to put on a headset and understand how play calling relates to what happens on the field. And I think it helped him slow down and not take every play so I don't want to say seriously, but with such great weight that it's okay to have a 6-yard completion. You don't need to have a 16-yard completion every time. So I think that it helped him slow down, and as a result, he's been more successful. And again, just for fun, I would say, yeah, he outplayed Patrick Mahomes in every category but one, and that's points.
That's true. I agree with Dustin that you need a larger sample size. We need to see the season play out completely and see what his numbers are at the end of it. But I was just looking at his stats, and since at least the end of October, he's thrown a touchdown in every game, at least one. And then he hasn't thrown an interception since the beginning of November. So it's obviously an upward climb, and I would think that Coach Canales, however you say his name, is probably a reason for that. He's a phenomenal quarterbacks coach. He works with quarterbacks really well and great offensive mind. So I think he's probably the one kind of, as you were pointing out, Dustin, kind of pointing out, like, just, you don't need to worry about the long pass every time. You don't need to worry about, trying to score on every single pass. Just get us enough to be able to get a first down the next kind of play. And so I would say, in order to actually evaluate, we need to wait until the season is over. But from the way it's looking, I would say, I could see myself saying by next season, he saved his career. I could see that. Doesn't mean he's good or elite, I should say. Doesn't mean he's a great quarterback, but he's more than backup.
Right. What it might mean, and what's important for the Panthers, given that they're probably going to get a top 6 pick, is they may not be drafting a quarterback first overall or with their first pick. And then Bryce Young has maybe done enough to convince the Panthers that maybe this is the guy that we can build around.
Maybe they can get him another, top receiver, which would be a big get for them.
Yeah. Okay, Cody, what's the topic you want to talk about with NFL?
Let me see. Let's see. Well, just from what the topics that you had said, let's talk about Saquon Barkley. And there's so much to talk about. There's so many different categories, but the first thing, this is a while ago, but a backwards hurdle should be enough for an MVP. Let me just say that was amazing. But more on a serious note, Saquon Barkley is playing, not just the best football of his career, he's playing the best football I think anyone has seen in a long time. He's just a phenomenal running back. Seems to make a play every play. And so I would say that if MVP award wasn't so biased around quarterbacks, it would be a hands down easy, no contest going to Saquon Barkley, as long as he doesn't get injured and continues playing the way it is. But I want to hear from you guys about Saquon Barkley or anyone else, maybe not quarterback, star players right now.
So if we're saying we're eliminating quarterbacks from the conversation, which by the way is essentially offensive player of the year, at this point, it's either Saquon Barkley or Jamar Chase, right? Jamar Chase has been phenomenal at wide receiver. He's been the best receiver in the NFL. And for just Cody, who's in the same fantasy league as me, I happen to have both on my fantasy team, both Saquon Barkley and Jamar Chase and Derrick Henry. By the way, I have all three on my fantasy team, and I'm loving life right now. So I swung a trade in a couple of weeks ago to get Derrick Henry as well, giving up a few pieces. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I'm just saying that those two guys, Jamar Chase is the other one that you could say he's not a quarterback, but he should be in an MVP conversation, even though the Bengals are horrible on defense and give up all the points. Jamar Chase is playing out of his mind at the receiver position. But I agree that Saquon Barkley should be in that MVP conversation. And the problem, and I know we said we were going to talk about quarterbacks, is that Josh Allen is playing like an MVP, and he's probably going to win it. But.
Yeah, I agree. Josh Allen will win MVP. I was going to also say Justin Jefferson been playing great. Although I'd love to see how great Jordan Addison has been playing. Justin Jefferson has been doing some historic things for the last several years. Yeah. To continue this year should be noted. With Barkley, I think the main comment I was going to have is what is going on in New York, in which they thought we can let this guy go. We don't think that he's worth the money to sign. To let him go. And it's just speaks to everything that New York has been doing wrong. The Giants in this case, although the Jets they may be owned by the same people. Because they both acted in the same way. But yeah, to let him go, and then he goes to Philadelphia and isn't given a really good situation in which he's already got 1,500 yards or something.
Yeah, I don't understand what happened. I mean, I really don't understand what they were trying to do or what they think. I don't get it. But obviously, if you didn't think it was going to work with them, the right answer is to see what kind of draft capital or trade capital you can get. That's the correct answer. If you don't think it's going to work with him, which, I mean, he was great there, but it wasn't working with him. And so I think they did need to get rid of him, yes, but they also needed to get 2 first-round picks back for it, at least. Or if not, another offensive player or something, rather than just literally nothing except for a worse record and the Eagles gloating in your face now. So I don't get it. I really
don't. While we wait for Scott to get back, I think one of the topics we were going to discuss, and we can go ahead and start now, is with remind me the name. Al-Shaiir Azeez.
Oh, yeah, Al-Shaiir. Yeah.
The Texans linebacker suspended 3 games for the hit that on Trevor Lawrence. So I think that we can get to the topic of those kind of hits, but first, Cody, you and I, until Scott gets back, 3-game suspension. Is that fair? Is it excessive? What do you think, analyzing that hit?
I think it's fair. I mean, it was a bad hit. Obviously, I mean, he's going to miss probably the rest of the season now because he's on IR. He was placed on IR for a concussion protocol, and so to answer the question, though, I feel like I have to put some other pieces of context in this. I think that while it was a bad hit, it should be penalized. He should get a suspension. They should also target the other side. I'm in agreement with banning a QB slide or something like that, because it sometimes QBs use it to their advantage, where if I can slide just late enough, I'm going to get hit and get a penalty and we're going to move forward. Other times, I mean, you slide and the defender can't. It's happening so fast. You can't alter what you're doing in half a second or even a second sometimes with how fast that game is going. And sometimes, the QB is going to slide thinking he's doing early enough, but the defender's already in motion. And I think that's maybe what have happened in this case. I don't know for sure. And so it's, in my opinion, both are kind of at fault. So I agree with the suspension. I agree with it was a dirty hit. It was a bad hit. He should have done it. But also, I think that Trevor Lawrence should get, hey, you need to stop doing that. We need to ban everyone from doing these QB slides or think of something else at least. I agree with the idea. You got to keep your QB safe because he's the most valuable player in your team. But the moment you become a runner, you got to know the rules. You're a runner now. You do what's best for you, and you do what's best for your team. If that's going to be running out of bounds, or if that's going to be whatever else, I don't know. But I think it needs to be looked at both sides. But as for this situation, I'm more than okay with the situation. As a side note, I have heard that he's got Al-Shaiir, whatever his name is, has gotten threats from fans for it, as well as threats towards his religion. He's a Muslim, I believe, saying because he's Muslim, he's doing all this stuff, which is complete idiocy or whatever that word is, and horrible. But that's my thought. Anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So Scott, the question was the 3-game suspension warranted? And then any other topics. So you may know the name. We forget exact pronunciation of his name. Oh, you're muted though.
Azeez Al-Shaiir.
We got it backwards. We're saying Al-Shaiir Azeez. Azeez.
Okay. I'm trying to put all my thoughts in order because I'm talking backwards here because I'm starting from what Cody said about Trevor Lawrence. I don't think that his slide was late at all. I thought he had almost 5 yards between him and Azeez Al-Shaiir before he started sliding. And I agree with you, Cody, that rule needs to change. I mean, if we're talking about the worst offenders, Patrick Mahomes is the worst offender, and that's of sliding way too late or pretending that he's going to slide and then not to get defenders to run past him. There's other quarterbacks that do it too. There's also different playing style. Like Josh Allen will never slide in his life. He's going to take on a Mack truck by himself, and so you can't. You have to kind of judge that differently because Josh Allen is a runner while a lot of other quarterbacks are going to slide. And so where's the line that you kind of take from that? Where's the full rule that you kind of set up? Because I do think it's an issue. And in my view, once you cross the line of scrimmage, you're a runner and you can be hit. Like that's what should be the case. Obviously, if you're going down, there has to be a certain limitation. You can't go down as you're getting hit and call that you're sliding. But I know I started from that side of it. Let me say that issue of quarterback sliding, I don't think that's the case with this hit. I think this was a dirty hit, pure and simple, a targeting hit, and the problem. So if it was any other player, if this was a first time thing from any player that oh my gosh, that's a horrible hit, where did that come from? It came out of left field. We've never seen this guy do this before. He'd probably only get a fine. Azeez Al-Shaiir is a repeat offender in this case. He's had a lot of dirty hits this year, and in fact, this is his 3rd straight game of a personal foul penalty, unnecessary roughness against another player. And so John Runyon, the discipline guy in the NFL, is sending a message, and he's saying this is not going to be tolerated. You're not doing this, and so 3 games. I think absolutely that's warranted. In my view, I would have done more. But send a message. I remember when Vontez Burfict, if you remember him, he was the dirtiest player maybe ever to play this game. He finally the league got way too. They got what's the word? Fed up with him, and they suspended him for the rest of the season after a hit that he did. And so they're almost doing that with Al-Shaiir right now. But I would agree with that there's a message that needs to be sent that kind of hit is not okay. Um, and I agree with you, Cody, as well, that bringing in the whole Islamophobia thing is like that. Why? That has nothing to do with anything here. And so I didn't like that part of it, but I also didn't like how Nick Casario, the general manager, and D'Amico Ryans, the head coach, are sticking up for their guy and saying, the Jaguars bench overreacted. Are you kidding me? Like, are you kidding me? Overreacted? You take out my quarterback like that. I think the Jaguars players reacted just the way that you should. Honestly, I remember I was hit once when I was on the. I got a cheap shot when I was playing high school football. I was a cornerback and I was going for an interception. I got hit blindsided by a guy that was coming around the other side, and it really got my head like moving back and forth. It was a pretty vicious hit, and I had two of my teammates go after this guy on my behalf, and that's the way I feel it should be. If you take out my guy, and I'd love Yancey to be here because he would. I'm sure that he would say that Azeez Al-Shaiir is dead. I'm gonna kill him if he's my teammate, or if Trevor Lawrence is my teammate. He's dead, and so that's the way that you should be. You should be protecting your teammates. Obviously, don't throw another punch. And hold on a second. But yeah, I'll be right back.
Yeah. So to give my comments on it, something that I think the rules analyst said as I was watching the game is, that the NFL has a list of things that you're not supposed to do, and his tackle checked every single box.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was absolutely warranted for the penalty to be called. And then, as Scott said, him being a repeat offender, I think, warrants the multi-game suspension. And so I think I agree with all of that. I really liked, I think we had seen some of Tom Brady's comments in which he said there must be some type of responsibility on the quarterback to avoid injuries. And I absolutely agree with that, Cody. As you said it, that when the quarterback's running, like, he's got to be a runner. Something that I look at is I'm not seeing very many injuries this severe happening to running backs. It's because they're being tackled. They're not sliding. They're being tackled, and also Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, they're not getting injuries like this because they're being tackled. And so I think that there's got to be this change in ideology that don't slide because you train a defender to tackle at the waist. You train a defender to launch his body in order to hit the knee between the knees and the waist in order to bring them down. And that just so happens to be where a sliding quarterback's head is going to be. Mm-hmm. And while, again, I absolutely agree that Al-Shaiir's hit checked every single box for what you're not supposed to do. Like, you're putting your head in the target zone. It's kind of like stepping into a 95-mile-per-hour fastball and saying, hey, I get a free walk, don't I? There's got to be some type of responsibility on the quarterback. And I think that responsibility is if you can't get out of bounds, get tackled.
Yeah, I think that just to add to that before we go back to Scott, I heard from someone, I think it was just a comment on Facebook that I really liked, honestly. It was the idea that a quarterback sliding should be called as a unsportsmanlike penalty, an unsportsmanlike kind of thing, because it's almost like they're trying to, like we said, a lot of times they just try to draw this penalty to get their team to move forward, and that should definitely be an unsportsmanlike penalty. So my thought is, if you're a quarterback and pressure's coming, you should really have two options. One, throw the ball away, or two, become a runner and you know you're going to get hit. You're playing a game of football, okay? You know what you're doing, right? Kind of, or I guess three, take a sack. That should be really what it is. You don't get you shouldn't get the special treatment, and I think a lot of people think that just because you're a quarterback, but no. Once you become a runner, you are everyone else at that point, and so that those are the things I would agree with you on, Dustin. Now back to you, Scott.
Yeah, sorry. One last comment to that is I think it's really easy to be tackled gently. If you prepare yourself for the tackle and you kind of go down with the defender, like it's a wrap up and a tackle and you're tackled gently. And I think that's very possible. And the other comment I have is we're not seeing concussions like these happening when a quarterback gets sacked, when they're actually tackled. And so if I had any pull in the NFL, what I would suggest is get rid of the quarterback slide and suggest that they get tackled, because the quarterback slide is causing more injuries than it's preventing.
I would agree with that. I don't have a whole lot to add to that. I think the slide should be replaced with a dive, like a dive head first. Um, I think when when you slide and you get hit in the chest, you're already going backwards and your head is going to bounce off the turf when you're hit like that, um, because when you're diving headfirst, we don't see that kind of those kind of injuries that often. Um, and I'm not saying dive into like a knee of somebody or die. I'm saying give yourself up by going forward. In addition, it also gives you another extra 2 yards, by the way, because you're not slide. As soon as you start your slide, you lose a couple of yards. If you dive forward, you gain those couple of yards. And so I would be in favor of getting rid of that slide as well and saying, hey, just dive, just go down like that, or get tackled, or go out of bounds. So
I don't. So I don't see how a dive would help that at all. And maybe I'm just not seeing it clearly in my mind right now. But your head is still in the hit area, and it's to me it seems like you're more initiating that head, almost that hit head to head contact. If you're gonna dive at last second, when the defender's still kind of coming down to get wrap around your waist, and now your head is there instead of your chest and then your head or something. I actually see more potentially a worse injury on your neck / head than the slide. But I guess I feel like a dive or a slide in either way is in my opinion a horrible way to do it. I think it should just be tackled or go out of bounds. But if you have other reasons, I would love to hear it.
no, it's just the way that your body is positioned. I think when you're sliding backwards, you're already going in a momentum where the back of your head is gonna get hit on the turf, and that's not you have more of an ability to protect yourself if you're diving like this, than if you're just giving yourself up to someone to smack into you. That's all I think. But um, yeah,
Yeah, I think another thing for hits back onto the defender responsibility, something I've never liked is when a player's being tackled and somebody comes and just dives basically as they're going down to the ground just to provide a hit. And I think that the purpose there is to try to get a receiver or a running back to have a little bit of a flinch, the next time that they're running or catching the ball. And I understand it. That's your defender as a job, but I've never liked how the player is already going down, getting hit, and somebody else dives in and hits them, and it's purely for the intent to provide a hit.
yep, agreed. Obviously the hits. I mean the penalties. The brunt of all of these changes fall on defenders, and that's just the nature of the game. You don't have a whole lot of offensive players that are going out to hit somebody as much as a defender would. I mean, you can't do the crackback block. That's one that they've got out of the game. But still, um, that's the way that defenders have to adjust, and they have. I mean, they've essentially changed the game. The NFL has, because players are no longer doing as nearly as much as these. I mean, those hits that the kind of hit that we saw from Azeez Al-Shaiir, maybe not quite that bad, but we saw hits like that almost every week, 7, 8 years ago. So almost every week, hits that were close to that, or the same kind of intent. And then they would have that one show, Jacked Up, or whatever it's called. I'm trying to remember. It said the best hits. Watch somebody's brain get destroyed here and laugh at it. So yeah.
Yeah, I think, while keeping the penalties the way they are right now, like especially on the defender side, I would reaffirm that I think they should have some like unsportsmanlike penalty on a quarterback slide type of thing.
Yep. Okay. College football. Let's talk about college football. So speaking of brawls and beating people up, Ohio State loses to Michigan for the 4th year in a row. No one saw this one coming. Everyone said Ohio State's favored by 25 points, and Ohio State's clearly the better team. And then in the Big House of all places, Michigan, or not the Big House, sorry, the Horseshoe of all places, the Michigan comes in and wins 13-10, and then very disrespectfully trying to plant the flag at the 50-yard line, and Ohio State's not having that, and so ends up with mace and all that kind of stuff. And to me, Ohio State showed more fight in the fight than they did in the game. So
I guess that's one thought though. What do you guys think about the whole flag planting thing? What's your take on that?
You don't want a flag planted, don't lose. I think it's a fun part of the game. I think that it's that if you go into somebody else's house and you win, you've kind of earned the opportunity to take your flag to the center of the field. I don't think you should hurt the field, destroy it in any way, but the opportunity to say, hey, we did this. This is a field of battle, and we won, and plant the flag there. And so I see the responsibility of the fight and the fallout to be on Ohio State, not on Michigan. That their reaction to this was more of a crying, whining, why did we have to lose? We're sad about it, than it was defending the home turf. And so, to the point, when Indiana beat Purdue, Indiana did plant a flag at Purdue, right? It's reserved for when you take down Goliath. And I think it's a fun part of the game, and I think that if you win at somebody else's house, you've earned the right to, I wouldn't say gloat, but to display your flag at the house as a token of your victory. And the right thing to do is to say, all right, see you next time.
I completely agree with that. The whole idea is if you don't like that, then do something about it. Like win the game. And it's. I think the part that maybe surprised me in a bad way the most was, from what I could see, Ryan Day's reaction to it. Ryan Day, I remember seeing the brawl was happening. He was standing on the sideline just folding his arms, watching it happen, while Sharon Moore was in there separating his players and yelled at him, "Get in the locker room. We're done here." Ryan Day's just watching it, and then at the press conference he says, "Oh yeah, some of our guys saw him do it, and they're just not going to let that happen. We're not." And then I think he even said, like, at one point, "We're not going to let that happen." And so he was completely defending his players for starting that fight, for leaving some players apparently bloodied, and one, I think, officer had to go to a hospital. But I mean, that really that kind of shocked me. I thought Ryan Day was more of an upstanding guy than that, and so that I don't know. I think something should happen. So some kind of thing should happen for him for not trying to do anything to keep his players from contributing to that. In my opinion, Michigan had a right to plant that flag, and Ohio State had no right to beat anyone up.
Going to argue with you. I think they were fined. Both schools were fined. I don't know about coaches, but I know both schools were fined a whole lot of money for that. But not sure any other fallout. I don't think anyone's going to be suspended. But so.
Yeah, Cody, to respond to your final comment, yeah, I agree that leadership and coaching is most important when you're in the middle of a trial. To whenever you've suffered a defeat, that's when leadership and coaching is most important. It's easy to have honor when you win.
Yeah, and as far as the repercussions or consequences for Ryan Day, losing to Michigan 4 years in a row, he might be fired anyway. So,
the
okay.
only way he keeps his job is if they win the entire college football playoff. Otherwise, I think he's gone.
Yeah.
Which they're not going to do because he's terrible time manager. Like, let's be honest, he's horrible time management, game management.
That's a good topic to talk about.
Yes, I think
Matt
it is. With the going back to the NFL, and Matt Eberflus was fired because, my goodness. Okay, the Bears they've had 3 games now, 3 games this season. One, a Hail Mary where Tyreek Stevenson is out there gloating to the fans and doesn't get back into position and then doesn't do his job and actually goes for the ball and leaves his guy open, and the Commanders win. So there's one. Then you set up for a field goal against the Packers. You don't go for any more yards and you're just setting it up and it gets blocked. And then in this one, you, for whatever reason, run out 32 seconds of the clock while sitting there twiddling your thumbs, not getting the play in, and then acting like, oh, I didn't realize we had a timeout to use, and then not even getting a field goal off in that case and losing to the Lions. 3 games, all of which falls on a coach. And so I usually don't agree with firing coaches in mid-season, in the middle of the season. I don't think it helps anything. In this case, there's nothing. They had to. Matt Eberflus had cost them 3 games this season as a coach.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, 3 winnable games, and one of those winnable games was against the Lions. Imagine if he had coached in a way where they beat the Lions. That's job security for the rest of the season in a way. If you can beat the Lions, and so, but instead of losing, or instead of winning those games, he lost all 3 of those winnable games.
Yep.
Yeah, your coach as a job, your coach. Your job as a coach, there's the word. Your job as a coach is to help your rookie quarterback manage the game. And it seemed like the coach was the rookie in this situation. He didn't realize what to do. I can imagine he was sitting around like, man, this clock's going down. I wonder if they're going to call a timeout. Looking around. Like, who's in charge?
Yeah.
All right, we got time for one more question.
Yeah, just looking back at college football. So SMU, because Miami has completely dropped the ball in more ways than one. They're not in the ACC Championship game. Clemson still is, even though they did drop the ball and lose to South Carolina. But SMU in the ACC Championship game, 1 loss. It's first season where they're essentially playing for free in the ACC, and we talked about it back at the college football preview. The only way this is good for SMU is if they win the conference in their first season. Here it is. So
yeah.
And by the only loss SMU has this season was against BYU, but they won every other game. So
I hope they do. I've kind of had this feeling, and I'm glad that their ranking is as high as it is, because I've kind of had this feeling that so many people have overlooked them, saying, "Oh, that's SMU," but no, they're playing in a big boy conference, and they're winning. Their strength of schedule maybe hasn't been as strong as other big boy conferences, but it's the committee's supposed to look at a Big Four equal to other Big Fours, which we can talk about later with why the heck is Alabama still in the running. And so it's, yeah, I hope they win and that they show that they deserve, because it's unfortunate that if they lose, they're out. There's absolutely no way they can get.
Yep.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I was hoping the whole season that SMU would do good enough to get where they are now, so I'm super happy about that, and I think they will be Clemson. They played really well. I think they'll be Clemson. But yeah, as part of that, what we were talking about is the whole falling part of Miami and all that stuff has allowed Alabama to jump, according to the committee. And one thing that I thought was interesting that Brett Yormark, who's the commissioner of the Big 12, had said, which I really liked, is that the committee is showing once again that they are relying on logos versus resumes, is what he said. And I really like that idea. I mean, it's the brand of Alabama that gets them over the resume of Miami. And it really bothers me, because my personal opinion, and I wonder if how many people agree with this, is that it's not about, in my opinion, it's not about who you think has the best chance to win a national championship. It's about who has earned the opportunity to play for a national championship. That's why we play the games. That's why it's not these eye tests. It's not this paper. Okay, well, if it was all that, we wouldn't play the games at all. It's not about like, well, Georgia and Alabama are always good, so when they have a chance, let's put them in. It's not about that. It's, hey, SMU has done great. They have earned a chance to play in the college football playoff. Same with TCU a few years ago. They got demolished, but they earned the chance to be there, and they needed to be there. And same with Cincinnati 4 years ago or whatever it was. That's what it's about. And I understand, I understand arguments about group of 5 teams, things like that. I understand that. But if it's a Power 4 team, it doesn't matter what conference you're in. It doesn't matter what brand you are. You play the game of football to see if you earn it that year. Because the truth is that you may play better one year than you play the next year. That's why we have different seasons. And so that's my thought. And in my opinion, that's the way it should be in everyone's mind. I want to hear from you guys too.
Yeah. So I like the sunshine and rainbows idea that you have there, Cody, of the way things should be, and I agree with you. It's the unfortunate brand does win out more often than not. I think a good comparison is the movie industry nowadays. Is you don't need a plot, you need an actor. To sell a movie, you put a certain actor or an actress in a movie, and you're gonna get a $500 million box office. Doesn't matter what the plot is. Same thing with college football, is they want the big names to be there. Alabama, Notre Dame, Georgia, all these teams, they want them to be there because that's when people are going to turn on the TV. There's probably 100,000 people that'll watch an SMU game versus 50 million that'll watch an Alabama.
Yeah, I mean, you think from a Cinderella perspective, how great, how much ESPN would really spin the story to say how great this is if we have a national championship between SMU and Boise State or something like that. Like how much they would say this is what it was supposed to be when you have a 12-team playoff. That's what they'll say in ESPN news articles. In their offices, they freaking hate that. that it's going to be SMU versus Boise State. They hate it because what's going to get them the money, what's going to get the viewers, is going to be Georgia versus Ohio State. in the national championship game. And so, but you're not going to see that from a marketing standpoint, because they're going to really sell the Cinderella story if that's the case. But they're going to hate it. They're just not going to let you know that they hate it.
And then it's really bizarre though when you think about that, because the way you explained it, what's going to get the viewers, the Georgia Ohio State game. But that if that's what it's about, the viewers. I mean, aren't most people like us? We just want to see good. I mean, we want to see who's earned to be there. Is that not what people want? Do they just want to see? No, I want to see Alabama every single year. Who wants that? That doesn't make sense to me. That does not make sense to me. I don't want to see the same freaking thing every freaking year. No.
What we want, yes, but it's not what the people want that are paying the bills, that are paying the money, that are sending the money in. The sponsors, the what do you call it, the progressive insurance, the ones that are spending $30 million a year to get their name on every bowl, things like that. They want to make sure people are tuning in, and if your bowl game is Texas San Antonio against Fresno State, like, I don't want to pay for that. I want to pay the Holiday Bowl that's going to get Arizona State against Oregon, or whatever it ends up being. Obviously, I'm just making up names, but so it's the ones that they care about. They don't care about the number of people who are watching their show, because we don't give them any money. The progressive people, the ones that give them money, are the ones that are buying ads, and so they care about the money in that case. So I hate it. But,
yeah, Cody, I also want a world where people care about football for the football, but no, this is a business and they care about the money, and the people making decisions probably don't even watch the game.
that's fair. Yeah. So. Okay, well, we didn't get to my PTI questions. That's okay. We'll talk about them next week or so. And we actually talked about a few of them. I just had some rule change ideas, a lot of them, in fact, about the kicking game and about penalties, which we talked about a couple of them already, and then bringing the draft lottery to the NFL. And so I really want to talk about those, but because we're not doing Yancey's memory, we'll just save both of those, the memory and the PTI, for next week. So,
yeah.
Okay, and we'll sign off 15 minutes early. So
Cool.
All right.
Okay, talk to you guys later.
See you later.